Well, finally back out here trying to get back to beekeeping. It's been a long, tough month of May. This is I think May the 30th. And it's been a rough month. We've had the wettest May, the most rain we've ever had on record here in Alabama. We've had places here that's had 13 to 14 inches of rain just in the month of May. Which is, man, that's a lot of rain for us. But it's kept us out of the bee yards. What pretty days that we've had. I've pretty much had to work most of those at my regular full-time job. I guess you'd call that my part-time job compared to the time I spend in the bee yards. But I do work another full-time job, and that's got a lot of my clear days that I could have worked bees. I've been there. So hadn't done much in the bees for a month now. It's rained almost every day, and that has really killed our honey flow. I really expected the bees to. We had a really good honey flow through April. Privet and tulip poplar was really good for us. Clover. We had a good bit of honey on the hives going into May, and April 30th, I got a couple of hives that's got scales on them. I can, at least in one yard, I can see what that yard's doing. And that was the last day that I seen the hives gain weight. Up until the last time I checked it through mid-May. So I really have expected hives to really decrease in weight getting out here now. I mean, the hives are full. With that honey flow coming to a stop with all this rain, that brood's got to be fed. Those bees have to eat, and they're going to eat their stores up. So when we typically have a lull in the honey flow through the month of May, through the middle of May anyway, and then it ramps back up towards the end of May. We get a pretty good flow of mimosa, sumac, and that's the biggest things through June. Get some sourwood, not a whole lot of sourwood, but we do get some. Sometimes we get a good bit of sourwood, but it's always mixed with a lot of sumac also. We're not able to get pure sourwood honey. But that lull through mid-May has been a whole month now. So I'm expecting these big populations of bees that had built up to have consumed a lot of that weight in honey through this month of May. But it is a promising sign, surprising sign. I got two scales in this yard. One of the hives had swarmed early on, so it's not useful to watch those. But the other hive sitting over here, I checked in mid-May. It had 143 pounds is what the hive weighed. Checked it today, weighed 173. That was very surprising. I'm hoping it ain't from robbing other weaker hives out. Maybe not. I hope it's mimosa. Mimosa has been in bloom, and they've had some spotty days here and there. Maybe we're lucky enough that they've been putting some more weight on. We'll find out today. I got 2 yards left that I'm doing as I showed in the previous video. I'm just shaking the bees out of the top deep. Got 2 deeps on with an excluder between them. Shaking the bees down into the bottom deep, putting an excluder, moving my excluder down just over one single brood box, allowing that brood to emerge out. Last of this honey flow, they can up into the beginning of July, they can backfill those top deeps where that brood has emerged out. Then we'll pull that and extract honey out of those also. But that's what I'm doing today, and hopefully starting to pull some honey off. If I get those 2 yards finished up today, then we will definitely start tomorrow pulling honey off. gradually. I don't have any extra drawn supers, so I'm trying to keep drawn comb on as much as possible. Hopefully I can pull some of those supers, extract them, and put them back on and get as much honey as possible. I'm really, really worried about the amount of honey that we're going to be getting and being able to keep my customers supplied, but it's part of beekeeping, just the way it goes. That's why if you're going to run a honeybee business, is very important. Matter of fact, it is. It's required. It's a requirement if you're going to make it, to not depend on one thing, not depend on splits, selling nucs, not depend on just selling honey, because you're going to have bad years. And if you're depending on constant revenue and you have a bad year for honey, or have a bad year making splits and lose your revenue, then that's just part of it. It's going to happen. You may go under if you don't learn to diversify your beekeeping business. Just part of beekeeping. It's the way it goes. But anyway, make the best of it, and that's what we're going to do. We'll make the best of it. It's just ebbs and flows of beekeeping. But that's what we got going on right now. It's what we're going to be doing today, shaking some bees and maybe pulling a little bit of honey. I've got comb supers, and I know a lot of those are ready. I will start, at least tomorrow, start going and pulling some comb honey off. I've got a lot of those are cut comb, and I'm going to be putting those, I jar those up with in-quart jars of honey. I'm not really, maybe I should worry about keeping that comb pretty and white, but I don't sell it as dry cut comb honey. I sell it in a jar, a quart jar full of honey. So I'm not as worried about getting it off immediately when it's capped. The dry comb honey that I sell, I will pull those off as they're ready and keep those pretty and white. So I'll pull those off that are ready. The cut comb honey for the quart jars, if some of them is completely capped and ready, I'll pull those off. Some of them I'll pull off, set a new super on, and set the cut comb honey back on top of that and leave them in place. So that's about all we're doing right now. I'll take you along and show you what I'm finding. This is one of my hives I had scales on, sitting right here. That's see, I've got a shim, just a piece of angle up on the front to support the front. Right here on the back is a brood minder hive scale. This is the one that swarmed. This is a really strong hive, and I didn't split them down enough. I left them pretty strong because of that comb honey super on top, and they did swarm before they ever got in there. I filled that second deep up with honey. Never made it up into the comb super before they swarmed, and just looking, without opening up, looking at the hive, they've either hives are dead out, or either it's really weak. So apparently they probably didn't get queen right after they swarmed. Haven't checked them. I'll take a peek in those, but I'll take that clean comb honey super. The swarm that swarmed out of it moved over into the pine tree right over here above this hive. I just happened to pull up in the yard and seen them. It was on one of these pine limbs right here. So I set this box down on the ground, just shook them in it, set it up on top. There's a couple of bricks up on it. Just set it right there, shook them down in the box, and caught that swarm, hived them up, and they have drawn out both those deep boxes. I just peeked in the top earlier, see if I can do this with it. It's been raining, so I may get ate up, but they have got they've got a super full, a deep full of honey on top, capped honey. So I'm about to place an excluder on top of that second deep and move that comb honey box from over there right on top of them and let them draw that out. It's in a different box, but the same colony is going to draw that honey super out anyway. We got sour, which we don't have any sourwood here on this around this yard, but we do have a lot of sumac that's going to be blooming over the next month. So they'll get that super drawn out for sure, unless we have some, God forbid, more rain through June. If we can have a hot, dry June, I think we'll wind up with a really good honey flow, I think. Just depends on what I find in hives over these next few days for honey. If they've consumed a lot of the honey, then it may not end very well, but if we still got a good bit of honey on the hives and have a really good flow through June on sumac, then maybe we'll come out okay. We will see. This is the hive that, on the scales that swarmed. I showed you. I'm gonna get this super comb honey super pulled off. Yeah, I believe it is completely empty of bees. And that's part of it. You're gonna have some of that. Keep more hives than you need, because when this happens, you got hives to replace it with, and that's fine. You got these boxes of drawn out comb here. 2 full boxes of drawn out comb. There's a couple of frames in top there that's not drawn out. It's all been robbed out, but these drawn combs, we can take them, I'll set them on the truck. We will take them to the yards with us, and the next yard we go to, we'll stick them on hives right on top and use them as supers. That drawn out comb can be filled quickly with honey during a good flow. Literally sometimes within a day. So it's not a total loss. I mean, it's just part of it. We'll replace that with a split and hopefully use these 2 boxes here to get some more honey with. Just make the best of every situation you find. I'm gonna take this over here. I'll show you the swarm that came out of this box. This is the swarm that came out of that dead out. And all they done was, after they swarmed, I didn't go in the box after they swarmed. And usually what happens when you wind up with a dead out like that is they had a lot of queen cells in there. They swarmed. Those queen cells started to emerge, those virgins started to emerge out. There was probably multiple after swarms that just kept reducing the population in that box until they was very weak. What was left in there probably either got robbed until they were just with nothing left and didn't have any, especially with this rain through the month of May, no honey flow, they just couldn't survive and they absconded. Or either they didn't get queen right until the population finally dwindled down to nothing. So that's the way those hives go after a swarm. Especially if they have after swarms, they just dwindle down to nothing. You really need to go in there and take care of those queen cells. Make some splits with it. Split it in half maybe. Eliminate all the queen cells except 1 in each box. That'll stop those after swarms, and then hopefully they get back queen right. If they don't get queen right, they're dead out. What it will wind up being if you don't take some corrective action. So that's what happened there. But I've got them in another box. Got two deeps full right now, and we're gonna put this honey super on it and maybe still wind up with a gain from them. So got a lot of drawn out comb from them, and get a whole box of cut comb honey. They'll also make us a good bit of money. Those cut comb honey is pretty valuable, so we'll see what we get. Not as much honey as what I thought was in there. When I peeked in earlier, there's one, two, it's like 8 drawn out combs. Yeah, about 8 total. 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5.5, 6 frames full of honey. Not bad. Not as full as I thought they was. They may not make it into this drawing and capping this honey super, but I know they got a lot better chance of it than the hive it came off of, because they don't have no bees in it. So we'll stick this honey super right on top of them and at least give them a chance to get us some comb honey drawn and capped. Don't look like they've put on a lot more honey than what I've been in so far, but they haven't consumed what they had down, so they've had enough to maintain anyway. But shaking these hives down, of course, if you watched earlier videos, you've seen this before, but let's pull that excluder off and shake the frames out of that top box down into the bottom deep, put my excluder back on and put the deep box on top of it. These top frames are going to have brood in them, but we got a good month left in the honey flow. I'm kind of pushing it on time, but we should still be good with these last couple yards we hadn't got to. So that the eggs is going to take the longest, of course. So we'll be 3 weeks out on those eggs emerging. So that we want all that brood gone by the time we pull these honey supers, and hopefully where the brood was will be backfilled with honey. So any of these frames in this second deep that's got eggs is 3 weeks away from that brood emerging out, and then giving the bees a chance to backfill where that brood emerged from back with honey before we pull this box off to extract honey. So that's the idea. If you're doing this method, you've got to keep that time frame in mind. So our honey flow ends early July. So we need to have these bees shook down, the excluder moved below this top box that we're going to pull off to pull honey off of. We need that done a good month before the end of the honey flow. That gives us enough time for that brood to emerge out and the bees to backfill what spots have not been filled with honey yet. Most of it, it's not all going to be eggs. It may not be any eggs in that top, but it may be a good many. But typically you're going to have some mixed ages of brood. So as that older brood emerges out, they'll backfill that honey in those first, because they're going to fill this box here right above the brood. They're going to fill it first. So as those brood emerge out and that queen can't lay in those cells, they're going to gradually fill that box with honey the rest of the way as that brood emerges out. So by the end of the honey flow, when what's the eggs in there now, by the time it emerges out, there's not going to be many cells left for them to fill. So it won't take very much of a honey flow at all for them to finish those last cells off with honey where that last brood's emerging out. So basically they'll start now with that. What brood is capped, as it emerges out over the next few days, they'll start immediately backfilling that with honey where that queen can't get to. And so we're not looking at, 3 weeks down the road them having to fill multiple frames with honey, with nectar to get those filled up. That would really be pushing us on time. But a lot of that's going to be brood getting ready to emerge in the next few days or over the next week or so. And so those cells that emerge out that early is going to get filled pretty early. So that brood will gradually diminish down, and looking at it that way, it gives you plenty of time for them to fill that box there. But yeah, that's the idea of it, and that's how that works, and that's what we are looking to do. Get this second deep completely filled with honey by the time we pull them off. I've been in a couple yards today and have been really surprised by how much honey that I found. To be a month without, or supposedly I thought a month without any nectar. Well, I've found a lot of hives that has put on a good bit of weight. It was very surprising and very promising for the next month. So I know most of you is not local to me, but if you are here around me in central Alabama, that is a real promising sign. If you hadn't been in your hives here lately, I have had a lot of weight been added on to my hives over this big rainy month of May. See why this land here. Show you this while I'm thinking about it. I've been swapping these covers out. So if you use this is actually water heater insulation. It comes in a roll. You'll see it in a lot of people's videos. A lot of guys use this for inner covers. It'll be stuck under that one. Just use it for inner covers right up under the lids. There's a couple really two basic kinds that I see of it. One of them is a little bit thinner type. It's if you can see it, if you're buying it online, if you can look at the pictures and you'll see this one type that's got the ridges going across. It is not very good to use. Don't get that kind. You'll see it's thinner, but the paper really comes apart once the propolis gets stuck down on it. You'll when you go to pulling it off, it comes apart. Let me pull this apart to show you. It comes apart just like that. When you pull it off, a lot of it'll stay stuck to the frames. Part of it'll pull off, and it's just not nearly as good as this kind. This kind does not have the ridges that goes across. They sell both of them on Amazon. I think I actually bought some of this before from Lowe's. I think most of this better stuff I've seen, has had these circles on it. Could be wrong about that, but I do know on the inside, it's like the bubble wrap, like you get in packaging. It is those small circular bubbles, just like you see right there, of air. This stuff lasts really good. It don't come apart the way that other does. It does a really good job. So if you're considering using this for inner covers, find the kind that has the circles rather than the ridges, and get that kind. It'll do a lot better job for you. Those using that for inner covers keeps your, obviously, it keeps your lid from sticking down from the bees gluing it down to your frames. So you can get your lid off without having to try to reach in and pry the frames off of it every time you take the top off. But that's also good insulation. And I know a lot of the books and seminars and things you might hear talks a lot about keeping moisture out of the hive in the wintertime, but that's not necessarily true. A little moisture in the hive is good for the bees. Bees use it. They need a little moisture in the hive in the wintertime. It's good for them to have. They even use it to break down honey sometimes, as I understand. I don't know that for sure. But I think in the wintertime they'll mix that water with honey some and use it. But I do know they consume moisture in the wintertime. So that cover on up under the lid, that makes your walls less insulated than the top. And where your moisture would normally, without it, would accumulate a lot on the top because that heat's hitting the top as it rises. Moisture may accumulate on the top and find maybe a low spot in that top and drip down, possibly on the cluster in the wintertime. With this cover like this insulation, that gives some better insulation on the top rather than the walls. So it makes your the condensation builds on the walls rather than the top, and kind of just, if it builds up enough, it'll run down the walls instead of on the top and dripping down on the cluster of bees. That is one good bonus. We don't have to worry about moisture in Alabama, but some of you this up a lot further north than us may have to worry a lot more about moisture in the wintertime, and having a better insulated top than the walls will help keep that moisture out from above your cluster in the wintertime. So that's a good thing to add into your hive and use. But I'm going to keep going through these. I think we're pretty much finished up moving our excluders down, and tomorrow I think we're going to start pulling honey. I haven't showed it yet, got a brand new honey setup for extracting. We put a lot of time and money into getting this set up over the last 2 months probably, and I'm proud of it. I think we've got a really good setup for the numbers of hives we have anyway. We'll outgrow it one day, but for now it's a pretty good deal, and I'll make a video here in the next week or two and show you how we've got it set up. It's a pretty simple setup. It's not a full commercial extraction line. It may cost you $40,000 to $50,000. The setup I've got bought brand new would be maybe 18 to 19. Well, not counting, I bought a used extractor. Maybe closer to 20,000 if you bought all of it brand new. So it's kind of not for a hobbyist beekeeper with a few hives, but if you're maybe a sideliner with a couple hundred hives, 400 or 500 hives, then this is I think a pretty dang good setup, and I'll be showing that to you over the next week or two. We just got finished up shaking down the last hives. All we're gonna do now is honey. From here until the end of the honey flow, we'll be pulling off boxes of honey, consolidating frames that are capped, and extracting and placing those combs back on the hive to hopefully get refilled with honey before the flow's over with. Got some comb honey ready. I'll be probably start this afternoon going and getting some of that off. All I've got on them is a comb honey super, so I'll lift those comb honey supers off, stick a super or two up under those, put a skateboard on top of the new supers, and put my comb honey back on top of that skateboard for a day or so, and then we'll come back and get it, take it home and place it in the freezer for a day or two, and before we package them up for sale. That's what we got going on now. Gonna be changing things up a little bit. I guess in the next video I'll show you my new honey house setup and some comb honey stuff and some new things. Thank y'all for watching.